individual rights and free markets, a free enterprise system, which was the foundation of the success we had in the first place. We need less regulation, not more. One thing that does give me some encouragement, however, is what I call the American sense of life. And I'm sure we have it in this room. I see this in chambers everywhere. Americans fundamentally are individualistic. They fundamentally believe that government should be limited in its scope. And we're seeing some pushback around that. One thing that I like to speak to groups about this. Everybody here, in one way or the other, is a leader in their business or in their families. And I think one reason we've had such a tough attack on capitalism, we've had a number of capitalists that haven't acted ethically. So they're assigning that to the system versus those individuals, which is a conceptual error, but that's what's happening. It's really important that we as capitalists, as entrepreneurs, act in a principled manner if we're going to have a successful system. At BB&T, we strongly believe that having the right principles is the foundation for personal success and organizational success and for personal happiness in the long term. We have 10 core values at BB&T. Underlying these values are what I believe are the three great virtues. The three great virtues. Purpose, reason, and self-esteem. Purpose, reason, and self-esteem. As human beings, we're purpose-driven entities. We have to know where we're going in order to get there. Organizations, businesses, churches, civic organizations are simply groups of human beings. For organizations to be successful, the people in those organizations have to vest in the purpose of that organization. While the content of purpose will be different by organization and by individual, I would argue the context is the same for all of us, and it has two components. First, I believe that everybody in this room wants to make the world a better place to live. I don't believe you'd be here today if you didn't want to make the world a better place to live. I believe everybody in this room wants to make the world a better place to live. In fact, I think that's a characteristic of most human beings. Now, it's interesting. There are lots of ways to make the world a better place to live. You don't have to go feed hungry children in Africa to make the world a better place to live. Businesses make the world a better place to live. Businesses provide better products, better services that improve the quality of life. In fact, the big difference between the quality of life in the United States and Africa is we have better businesses. When you're in business and you forget you're in business to make the world a better place to live, in the long term, bad things will happen to your business. Good doctors, good teachers, good homemakers make the world a better place to live. There are lots of ways to make the world a better place to live. The second attribute of purpose is equally important and way under-discussed. You need to make the world a better place to live doing something you want to do for you. You have a fundamental right to your own life. So do your children. They have a fundamental right to their own life. If you try to make the world if you made the world a better place to live but you didn't enjoy doing it, you would have wasted the most precious thing you have, which is you. And if you try to make the world a better place to live and you don't care about doing it, the odds are you won't do it very well. So you need a sense of purpose about making the world a better place to live, doing something you want to do for you. The means by which you accomplish your purpose is your capacity to think. We use the term reason. Everything that's alive has a method of staying alive. A lion has claws to hunt with, a deer has speed to avoid the hunter. We have the capacity to think. And our capacity to think is literally our only means of survival, success, and happiness. There are no shortcuts, there are no free lunches. In fact, there's only one true natural resource, that's the human mind. 10,000 years ago, oil was useless to man. Oil is useless to a deer today. Somebody invented oil. 20 years ago, telecommunications went through big, thick cables made out of copper, which was expensive and rare. Now telecommunications go through fiber optics made out of silicon, the most common material on the Earth's surface. Somebody invented fiber optics. So the human mind is the source of all of our productivity. There are two pillars, institutional pillars, that improve the productivity of the human mind. The first is freedom. Freedom. Freedom is essential for human progress. And entrepreneurs, I think, instinctively know that. You have to think differently, out of the box, do things differently. When you're denied the capacity to think differently, to think independently, you can't make progress. And it's funny, I'm in an academic environment now, and academics talk about academic freedom, and they're right to defend that. But they somehow think all of us in business, with all these government rules and regulations, can still be productive, innovative, and creative. We can't. Those regulations literally keep us from thinking and reduce our capacity to produce. Freedom is essential for a productive mind. The second pillar that makes human minds productive is knowledge. And knowledge comes from education in the broadest context. That's why we can't afford to have a failed K through 12 education system. I would argue, I just saw some statistics this morning, that almost 35% of the students in North Carolina, it's probably the same thing in Kentucky, don't even graduate from high school. That's a failed education system. We've had that same problem for years and years and years, and we keep thinking it's going away. It's not going away unless we change the system. And the only way to change the system is create competition. You know, in business, we like to talk about being innovative. We actually hate to innovate. We have to innovate because other people make us innovate, right? Competition forces us to change. What we need in education is a forced change. And it's not private schools like you see today. What we need is 100,000 experiments, which is what small businesses are, which 98% in the long term fail, of about 98% failure rate. But there's some geniuses out there. There's some Bill Gates, there's some Sam Waltons, there's some Thomas Edisons that would revolutionize education. We can't afford to have a failed education system. Interesting thing, when we're clear about our purpose, we use our thinking capacity to accomplish our purpose, we get to do something very important. We get to raise our self-esteem. And it's an interesting thing to think about. At higher levels in organizations, I've seen this often, people almost never fail because they aren't smart enough or they aren't well educated enough. If they fail, it's usually because they have a subconscious negative belief based on low self-esteem that turns into self-destructive behavior. In addition, self-esteem is the foundation for happiness, and happiness is the end of the game, right? Sometimes people in business get confused. They think money's the end of the game. Nothing wrong with money. Money's a good thing, but money's not the end of the game. The end of the game is happiness. And I use happiness in a broad context, not having a good time on Friday night, but a life well lived, hard earned, hard work, Aristotelian idea of happiness. Happiness is the end of the game, and self-esteem is the foundation for happiness. A couple thoughts about self-esteem, which is actually a very complex subject. First, self-esteem is fundamentally self-confidence in your ability to live and be successful given the facts of reality. So self-esteem is earned. Nobody can give you self-esteem. You cannot give your children self-esteem. Self-esteem is earned. Live your life with integrity, raise your self-esteem. Second thought about self-esteem. From probably everybody in this room, and for most of your employees, most of your self-esteem comes from your work. And I use work in the broadest context. Raising children is very important work. Most of your self-esteem comes from your work because you spend a disproportionate amount of time, effort, and energy at work. That's what makes work so important. Something I say to all the employees at BB&T, it's real important to BB&T that you do your job well, but it's far, far, far more important to you. Might fool me about how well you do your job, might fool your boss about how well you do your job, but you'll never fool you. If you don't do your work the best you can possibly do it, given your level of skill, given your level of knowledge, you can't do the impossible. But if you don't do your work the best you can possibly do it, you will lower your self-esteem. Now here's the good news, the flip is true. Do your work the best you can possibly do it, given your level of skill, given your level of knowledge, and you will raise your self-esteem. And that's more important when you get more money or you get a promotion because it's about who you are as an individual. And there's a huge societal implication of that concept. Take an entry-level construction worker, a bricklayer. And that bricklayer works hard, and he barely makes a living. But he makes a living, his family gets by, maybe his grandson becomes CEO of a large corporation. That happened in my family. Maybe they don't, But he gets something incredibly important out of that work. He gets self-esteem. He gets to be proud of who he is, and that's implicit through the whole family. Take that same bricklayer and give him welfare. He may be better off financially, but he's lost something incredibly important. He's lost his self-esteem. He's lost his pride. You know, a lot of what we're talking about at the political level in the U.S. has to do with security. We all care about security. Security is an important thing. However, the United States is not the land of security. People didn't get on a boat and come to Jamestown to be secure. The United States is the land of opportunity. Opportunity to be great. Opportunity to fail and try again. But most importantly, the opportunity of that bricklayer to be the best person he can possibly be. To be the kind of person he wants to be. To make life on his own terms. And that is the American sense of life. And that is what it is so precious for us to defend. Thank you very much.